So I don't think it's good enough. I genuinely on to the next question, because that was a tangent and a half. Is it the chaos that everybody believes? Right, it's your Geordie journals, we're back. We're back as a 3. Doesn't happen all that often, does it, these days? It's
not in the summer.
No, it's hard in the summer when one's off, one's not. We'll always just try and get as many videos out to you guys as we possibly can. Of course, thank you very much for your support and watching all the videos that we've done so far this summer. Seems to have been a lot of interest peaked. The one on Saturday did well. A bit of transfer talk here and there. So what we'll do is we'll probably do a little bit of that towards the end of the show. So do hang on for our thoughts on the questions that almost, I've been sort of scrolling social media and people seem to be going, chaos this, and why have they not signed anybody yet? That. So I think we're going to kind of delve into what our thoughts on, are we worried yet? Is there need for worry from our information? And is it the chaos that some would suggest at Newcastle United? There is a little bit, it seems, a bit of a vacuum, but we'll address that later in the show. First of all, it's been a big day on the Premier League front, hasn't it?
Yes.
Of course, the big news, first, last, everyone was looking for that with the Premier League fixtures. Who you got the first, who you got last? But it was the game against them lot, wasn't it, really, that everyone was looking for. I'm loath to say their name in public. Not on this hallowed ground.
Keep it out.
But yeah, what's your thoughts, Dom, on the fixture list? Looks a bit tricky early doors, doesn't it?
Yeah, it echoes a little bit what we saw 2 years ago when Newcastle were in the Champions League. They had Villa opening game, they played Liverpool, Man City early on. This time Villa away, which is it's almost a flip of a coin game for Newcastle. They'll either win heavily or lose heavily down there, as has been the case the past few seasons. And yeah, I think it's funny because the last time we were here watching a game at St James's Park, obviously Newcastle pipped Villa to Champions League on goal difference, losing to Everton, but Villa losing at Old Trafford as well. I think there's a bit of intrigue heading into this fixture, this opening game fixture, like there was 2 years ago, and then Newcastle got the job done, won 5-1, wiped Villa away, although the game was probably a lot closer than the scoreline would suggest. But yeah, two teams who are basically proving they're the best of the rest in terms of outside the Big Six coming together. I can see why the Premier League have picked that and why it's a opening day fixture, if you like. And I think that's probably one thing we're not too pleased about, is going down to Villa Park for a 12:30 kick-off on a Saturday.
It's a grim one, isn't it? It's almost like we're not going to do it, but it's almost like you could stay the night before. It's going to be such an early start to get down there. It's awful. But look, that's first world problems. Other problems that we're also having in this video is, of course, you might be able to hear the banging and clattering and all sorts going on in the background. That is actually the Sam Fender dismantling from St James's Park, still going on here. Timestamp this on what day? Wednesday. Wednesday, yeah. So they're still taking the bits and bobs out. So if you do hear any banging and clattering, or if you do see a flash of silver, I've seen you getting handsy there, Dom, flashing your wedding ring in the. You got married this summer, you know. Anyway, we digress. Jordan, what were your initial thoughts when you seen it come through this morning? You're up bright and early working.
Yeah, tough start. Villa, as we've just touched upon, Liverpool as well. Second game here takes us back to a couple of seasons ago when Newcastle played them early doors, 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go, 10 men against 10 men, and somehow lost. So, but is it a good time to play Liverpool? I suppose time will tell. But yeah, two very tricky games. You then go deeper into the season when the Champions League gets underway, as I scroll off the screen. Yeah, Champions League fixtures, obviously 8 match days. One of them falls a few days before the first time we had Derby in 9 years. Could be in Real Madrid on the Wednesday,
5-0
and we are side on the Saturday, which would be an interesting one. But no, I mean, you play every team twice. I don't usually go too deep into Premier League fixtures, but one thing I don't like about this Premier League fixture list is Newcastle are away on the first game of the season, away on the last game of the season, and away twice over Christmas in the space of 3 days at Manchester United and Burnley, and I don't like that.
Yeah. What I would say is the bit that I'm like you, Jordan. I don't really dive too deep into. You play everybody twice. Everyone gets so excited about this, that, and the other. But the start is very difficult, and I think momentum in football is a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think you often find teams who it's always a worry when you end the season badly. You don't want to start the other one badly as well. And it's easy to forget in all the success. Newcastle lost their last 2 games last season. So I think, it starts, if you don't win the first couple, it starts to become a run, and you don't want that. You kind of want to build some momentum at the start, and look, they'll be fine, they'll be all right, they'll be there or thereabouts. But I think it could have been kinder to them. To go to Villa where they don't win at Villa, it isn't a place where they go and particularly win, and they got battered there. That was one of the biggest batterings you'd ever see. That game that we were there all together, the first time we'd done Villa together, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Battered at the back end of last season. I know you talked about Emmy Martin as being banned for that.
Yeah, if he's still at the football club.
But the problem Newcastle had was keeping the goals out, never mind scoring them. So probably could have done with about 4 or 5. Rodgers, Watkins, could have done with all them being out.
Yeah.
Then obviously, I think the first home game is really good. You want a first home game like that. I think everyone will be bang up for that game here. And these are the kind of, you don't want to face them all in one cluster, but they're the kind of football rivalries that have been building Newcastle because of the cup final. Aston Villa, of course, being a real direct challenger at a similar level. Then Arsenal at home's quite early doors, isn't it?
The 27th.
Yeah,
September.
there isn't many what you would call 3-point gimmies at the start. Wolves here. But then they've got Bournemouth. Newcastle stink the place out every time they play Bournemouth. I mean, I wasn't there with you guys last season. I was away on holiday in Egypt, but watched it, and I've seen the first half anyway, and it was utterly disgusting. And I was as shocked as anybody to come back and then get some signal again and see what actually drawn the game. So no, it's a tricky start, but look, at the end of the day, it'll be fine. Sunderland away first isn't ideal. You'd probably rather have them at home first. Although it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, it doesn't, but it would be preferred. But look, at the end of the day, we'll be fine. I'm not really worried about the fixtures too much. I think the Champions League ones don't fall great. You wouldn't really ideally pick Sunderland to play the weekend after.
The 8 Champions League game, after they play, they go away on the weekend 5 times.
That's what you wouldn't want, isn't it?
No.
Quite windy here, isn't it?
Sun's gone in.
Yeah, it has. No, you're right, Jordan. That's what you wouldn't want, particularly for us. You guys trying to convince other halves that you're going to be away for virtually a full week.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think there is a week where they not go to Bournemouth on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And then we had that, I think, last time as well, when Kieran Trippier had that infamous rant with a supporter.
Was that after Champions League? Was that after Dortmund?
I think so. I think so. I
think it might have been. Yeah. Although they went away to the San Siro, got a decent result there, and then went away to a team who play in red and white and won 8-0. So.
The stars
swings around about.
If it's Inter Milan away on the Wednesday, the stars align. Yeah. Watch out, your Mackhams.
I do wonder if December time is probably a good time to play Sunderland, because usually by that point you have a rough idea where they're going to be.
Yeah. It's like the Ipswich effect.
In Ipswich, that's what I was going to liken it to last year, where you went Ipswich, you win 4-0, and you look at that point in Ipswich, they've got a fighting chance, but you can see they're heading in one direction, that's down. I do wonder if we'll see a similar effect with Sunderland. From memory, they've got 2 tough games before heading to Newcastle, Manchester City and Liverpool, I think it is, both away. So look, we'll wait and see, but it's a bit of an extra long wait for the derby. I would like to have had it a little bit earlier on the season, I think.
I hoped it was going to be early. I thought it might have been in August, September.
It usually is, isn't it? But not this year. So now we'll just have to wait.
Yeah. Leeds early doors is an interesting one, because you tend to find the newly promoted teams away for the ambulance to pass. You tend to find the newly promoted teams the first month or so can be a bit of an unknown quantity, and then they settle down. So Leeds, obviously a historically big club, plenty of momentum, 100 points in the Championship last season. Ellen Road, I think that's a tricky one.
It is tricky, but I think realistically you look at that and say it's got to be 3 points.
But
you have to look at that, and I'll be honest, I don't rate him as a manager, so I don't necessarily see this as a normal Leeds. I think they might really struggle.
I think they'll be all gun-ho, Leeds. I think with Daniel Frank's teams usually are quite attacking, and that can go one or two ways, and we've seen teams come to the Premier League in recent seasons and have that attacking philosophy and whatever, and been absolutely done in.
Daniel, fuck!
Sorry, he'll be saying when Isak scores for the 3rd time.
I know, he's a nice, softly spoken man. I do quite like listening to him.
He's done a good job bringing them back, but
I think he's rubbish.
Yeah, it's one of them where is he a Premier League manager? I would ask the same of Scott Parker.
It's the Dwight Gale of Premier League managers, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's a good shout.
I would have been saying the same about. Well, I know Chris Weller's been sacked at Sheffield United now, but I don't think he's a Premier League level manager either. So you get these managers that are good at taking teams up, but can they solidify teams? And I do think those two managers that we're speaking about there's question marks over over them. But anyway, back to the fixtures. Anything else to?
There was nothing else of note.
No.
Sunderland December 13th, then here at St James's Park on March 21st, I believe.
Yep.
And then Fulham away last game, which was a very tricky game for Newcastle last season. But
Won a few times before that, but it's never been a great game, has it?
No. But what I would say is Newcastle's end to the season is a bit kinder than what it was the end of this season, where obviously they were playing the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal in quick succession, had a game away at Brighton where they never do well, whereas this season, I'll just get it up, it's Brighton at home, but then they've got Forest away, West Ham home, Fulham away, which is
two away trips that we quite like, aren't they? We like
so
going to Forest.
they're avoiding any of the direct rivals based on last season anyway, in that final month of the season, which I think you've probably got to welcome.
Quite like Fulham, I like Fulham when we can find a seat, but it's a lovely place to go.
I think Newcastle have had a couple of good results on the last day of the season down there as well. They had the 4-0.
Yeah.
Rondon,
John Joe
Perez,
Shelby, Screamer.
Joe Willock went behind. Well, it was sort of behind closed doors. There was a couple of fans back on the ground, but
I've won twice on the last day there, haven't they?
Yeah, so
good omen.
Good omen, yeah. But I do think the tough start probably mirrors what they had when they had the Champions League football last time. Because I do remember heading into a game against Brentford here. I think we won via Callum Wilson penalty, but I remember that feeling like a sort of an early must win because I hadn't got off to the best of starts. Not maybe in terms of losses, but it was Brighton, Liverpool, Man City, the other one. Yeah. Obviously, I know there's Liverpool there. It isn't quite as difficult if you like, but it is a tough run. And
is that Brighton in the dark? Is that the video we did in the dark?
Yeah. That was it was. They got beat. No, sorry, Evan Ferguson scored a hat-trick.
Got beat 3-1.
We did the video in the car park.
It didn't have lights then. They only invented them a couple of years ago.
Right, well that's the way I look at it as well. If Newcastle go and sign 3, 4, 5 players in the summer, they get people off their seats and excited. And the sirens won't be called, but everyone will. It'll just look different. Everyone will look at it and there'll be, rather than this sort of standpoint of negativity where people are because nothing's really happened, they kind of look upon things slightly negative. Whereas I think once you've got a few players through the door and things start moving forward, people will be like, oh well, we'll take it on, and people will be bang up for the season. It'll build, and I'm sure everything will work out fine. Right, quick word from our sponsors. All the details that you need from our the Geordie Journals sponsors are down below. Do remember, you can like, comment, share, subscribe for all your Geordie Journals content. Here is the word from our sponsors.
Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. 4 Rivers Financial Planning. 4 Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in.
Right, Geordie Journals are back. That was a word from our sponsors. Thanks a lot for hanging on through all of our fixture chat. And now is the bit you probably hung on for to hear what we think. I see a lot of stuff on social media, as I mentioned at the top of the show. A lot of people talking of chaos, a lot of people angry, a lot of people upset, and I'm loath to downplay any of that. I think that's the type of thing on a sort of show like this that we should be addressing. What the people are talking about, we should be talking about it. And I think even from our comments, we all read them, you see it. When we tried to downplay it a few weeks ago, saying calm down, chill, people went off it, and they were like, no, we want to be angry. And you know what? I agree with you. Everybody's got the right to be upset and angry, but that doesn't mean it's the way I feel, you feel, or you feel. And we haven't actually spoke to each other about how we feel, but there's a couple of little key questions I wanted to pose. Maybe we'll just pose them all in one. Is it the chaos? Well, no, that's going to be the second question. Okay. Right, first question is to you, Jordan. Are you worried about the situation at Newcastle United, particularly with framed in the idea that they haven't done anything yet? Are you worried in terms of transfers? No,
I'm not worried in terms of transfers in the slightest. I think a lot of people's judgment has been clouded by a pretendy transfer window before the Club World Cup. We're now 3 days into the proper transfer window, if that's what you want to call it. I think historically, look at Newcastle's early signings, not really until early July. I think if Newcastle haven't got bodies through the door, say early mid-July, then I would be concerned. But right now, standing here in the middle of June, I'm not concerned the slightest in terms of transfers. I think There's obviously work going on behind the scenes. They'll do the business when they can. I do stand here and I believe they will go and still sign players. And I hope that is next month. If not, then maybe you do ask questions about what direction the club is going in during the summer transfer window.
Probably haven't addressed this for you on the video. I spoke to Dom about it in a previous video, but you guys were in the press conferences towards the end of the season when Eddie Howe talked of the haste and the need for haste and getting players in quickly. With that in mind, had you expected something maybe quicker than what it has, or not?
So I took Eddie Howe's comments as just a manager who, I think every manager wants the players in early. That's the way I took it. I think obviously you would like to. I think there's clearly players that have identified perhaps for release clauses like say Brian and Bournemouth, etc., where if they want to sign in, probably have to go now. But his example looks like he wants to go to Manchester United or possibly Tottenham, so maybe you speak out those type of players acting now. But I think every manager, I think Eddie Howe said it in several press comments at the end of every season he's been here, he wants players in early. I think if it was up to any manager, I would have the squad fully sorted for the first day of pre-season. But unfortunately, transfer windows don't win like that. So yeah, I understand why people would point Eddie Howe's comments, because I've seen that online. You look at Twitter all the time; it's always about what Eddie Howe said after the Everton game. But I do wonder if a bit of that was just him expressing what every manager does and wants these signings in as early as possible.
I would caveat that with Eddie Howe did say he would ideally look to take advantage of the PSR window and maybe take advantage of some clubs who are needing to sell. So I guess
that's a blurry situation though. Everyone seemed to assume Aston Villa would be in trouble, but you know, you sort of hear little bits now that maybe they're not going to be. I don't know.
There's always ways, as you know.
That's what I mean.
To get
Yeah.
Would end of June still class as early transfer business?
Yes.
You would.
Yes. Before they've returned for pre-season, before they've played any friendly games, yes, that's early transfer business for me. And the fact Eddie Howe said it's something they'd look to take advantage of, I don't think he had any players necessarily in mind. It's just obviously just putting out a message that the tables have turned compared to last summer. But the one piece of business they are trying to do, the João Pedro, Brighton are absolute PSR darlings. They're the complete opposite of
they are the perfect team.
Of a team who are needing to sell. They just go, we
low
can
overheads, players who increase massively in value. Due to
they are team PSR.
They are. I wouldn't swap it though.
No.
Would you? Are you worried, Dom?
I'm not worried, but I think Jordan makes a good point. If you're getting into that Celtic game and there's not a new player, a bit like Newcastle were a couple of years ago when they were against Rangers at Ibrox, that had Sandro Tonali, that's a marquee signing to put your hat on and go, let's get excited for Champions League football. We've got a Champions League player through the door. And not like when we were in Japan, me and Jordan were trying to fluff up how great Odysseus Vlachodimos and Lloyd Kelly were. We don't want that.
No.
We need marquee signings within the next 30 days. Otherwise, I will be going, it's a little bit worrying. I think timing is obviously key. If Newcastle go another few weeks without a signing, I think I can almost accept it to a degree. But what I will say is, in terms of being worried, the clock is ticking.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with you on those points. I'm not worried. Do I have some reservations? Would I like to have already seen something happen? I don't think anybody. I would love to have seen them sign 3 players already, but that's not really the way it works, and it doesn't work that way, particularly in a PSR world where every penny counts. I think they're really having to be. It gets overlooked how much they were damaged by the process of what happened last summer. The people in and around who had to do those deals were damaged by it, and I think there is a reluctance to just go and do it, as most people probably would in this situation, having not spent. Just go and get it done.
Yeah.
You want him, right? We'll get him. We've got the money. I think they're just very, very cautious with that. And Newcastle United isn't a football club yet that makes enough money, and it doesn't want to sell its best players. So it's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where it's going to have to continue, unless it breaks one of those two remits. It's going to have to fiddle around, nudge and nurgle with transfers, bit of this, get rid of him, get rid of that, swap him, do this, whatever they can do. They're going to have to do a little bit of that. They're going to have money to spend this summer. It's not the type of money that a lot of people talk about, and if they were able to spend the type of money that some people have put out there and talked about, then they are just at zero for the next 5 windows. So it's got to be a balancing act, and that's frustrating. I'm fed up. I'm sick to death of talking about PSR. I am sick to death of talking about money this, money that, budget this, headroom that. Honestly, stick it in the bin, man.
It's not the football that we grew up
Oh, it's
loving.
crap, man.
As a kid in your bedroom, you're dreaming of players you can sign. You're not thinking about PSR. Whereas now, literally, we're discussing players that we'd love to sign, and we're thinking about financials.
Can't get him because of this. Bollocks. Can't get it. That slipped out. Actually, that wasn't deliberate.
No, it is. It's tiresome because, as you say, you mentioned they go and spend the money they want to this summer. You're probably in 12 months' time, you're looking at having to sell someone again.
Yeah.
Aston Villa, to be fair, Aston Villa, I'm not Aston Villa's biggest fan, but I see the ambitious football club who've qualified for Europe for the last 2 seasons and find themselves in a position heading at the back end of of June where they have to or may have to sell players. That's not right.
It's not right.
And you've got Chelsea going out and spending money like it's out of fashion. Every player Newcastle get linked with, Chelsea are there. It's so frustrating. Like Manchester United, Chelsea, like it's just a bottomless pit for them. Liverpool. Remember Jurgen Klopp's comments a couple of years ago? Newcastle have got
No ceiling or something on it, aye.
They're going to go and break the British record transfer fee on.
Are they not signing the most expensive goalkeeper, the most expensive defender? Now they virtually want to sign one of the most expensive players ever.
And
Talk rubbish, man. Though.
And I know them clubs have got commercial levels that Newcastle don't have, but you're trying to get to those levels. It's impossible to set you back 10-15 years with PSR.
There's no way, and we're told from the very start there is no way of really accelerating this project now in the current financial climate, the way the football is. There isn't a way. Even and it's going further and further away because clubs are getting invited to this farce in America, and their revenues
big money involved
flying,
in that as well. There's no one turning up the ground.
Money.
There's empty stadiums are playing to in America and they're getting millions of pounds for it.
You get a few million quid every point, win, all that kind of stuff.
I think it's over $1 million for a win. For a draw, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say it was over three for
a win.
3 million. Huh?
So your points are actually millions of dollars. And then if you get to the final and win it, you're talking silly money.
Yeah, it's jackpot time. Who's to say Chelsea wouldn't go and do that? They're a decent competition team. They always find a way. It wouldn't surprise you if they went and did it, would it?
No.
And then all of a sudden a team who you kind of felt like, oh, you're catching them, you're getting to an evenish keel, even though they only won the Champions League for 4 or 5 years ago. You're getting to a point where you can almost compete sometimes with them losing Abramovich and whatever. Nah, see you later. Club World Cup money, we'll take that. Women's team, bosh, we're away. Hundreds of £1 million left you in the dust. That's a criticism of the club as well, by the way. I don't think the club, this is my tangent for the day, I don't think the club deserve, and I've asked them about this in the past, and I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start pushing again. I think there needs to be some communication with regards the commercial side of the football club, because I don't think it's good enough. I genuinely don't. I see Peter Silverstone at the top of this football club with a lot of power, a lot of influence. I don't see the results that should be coming.
No, I agree. I'm not a commercial guy, so I can't comment, but I've literally, for the last 3 years, we talked about a training ground sponsor.
Well, I asked him, didn't I?
Where is the training ground sponsor? And they might not want to sell themselves short in terms of fees, but can you not organise contracts where if you incentives where if Newcastle qualify the Champions League, if you want to stay a training ground sponsor, you have to pay. Look, I'm not a commercial man in that respect, so I can't say that with absolute facts. But when you're trying to build essentially transfer budgets and you've got assets like a training ground, etc. I don't know, dugout sponsors, for example. You know what I mean?
They've got now, Jordan. They've done now.
They don't.
They've had a couple of gimmies from the Saudis. The front of shirt and the side of shirt are gimmies from the Saudis. And what else have they delivered? It has to be said. Adidas, which was a cut and paste from what he did at Arsenal. And we still don't know the value that's added to Newcastle United's coffers, really. Because of the nature of the deal that was set up, we still don't know the nuts and bolts of that. We'll find that out in January.
Yeah.
We don't really know that yet, so I'm going to reserve judgment on the Adidas one. It could blow the socks off everybody, and I hope it does, because that's the type of thing that somebody of that level should be coming to do. I asked him direct, why have you not got a training ground sponsor? Why have you not got a training kit sponsor? All this kind of thing. And he said, we don't want to price ourselves out of future money by setting it too low now. Now I would say I'm not a commercial bloke. Look, I don't stand here with a load of money in my back pocket. I'm not the best to advise on this. He's probably much more qualified than me. However, something's better than nothing. Could you not have signed a deal for 3 years with a prospect, as you say, you know, if success goes X, Y, Z, wherever, the deal goes up and you're either in or you're not. Where's all that about, like? They're literally scrimping and scraping for pennies, selling footballers they don't want to have to sell. When other clubs are making up these numbers by having sponsors of everything,
Yeah.
who we got in the door? I love it, fantastic. I love the synergy of a Newcastle brand, Fenix. You can't tell me Fenix is paying a lot of money for that.
No.
Let's be brutally honest about this. A failing department store, which is,
Blasphemy.
well, no, it is. I love it. I love it.
No, it's
I love it.
Do you know what it's done? It's probably paid Mark Gillespie and John Woody's wage.
Exactly.
That's
And we're talking like these are big deals. They're not big deals. The Post company does a couple of fancy videos online. I love Seller as a
Saudi
sponsor.
every time they go abroad.
Saudi, they're gimmies. You can't. We could have walked in with no commercial expertise and probably half got those deals done. They were already on the table. Go and get somebody else from outside. Bring it in. Where's the outside?
There's
sponsors?
nothing transformative. It has, obviously, you look at the books, you speak to Darren Eales, Peter Silverstone, it's increased. And I'm playing devil's advocate here slightly, but it has multiplied season after season. Commercial deals are coming in. The commercial side of Newcastle has grown almost as much as it has on the pitch. But I think you do raise good points. It's almost like when you're looking, and you can make this mistake sometimes, you compare yourself to other clubs or the clubs you want to be at that are bringing in millions upon millions of commercial revenue. It does raise questions. Why aren't Newcastle doing that, or at least trying?
From the outside
which
looking
the
in, which is
perception.
why I'd love to speak to them, is it feels like a football club with a handbrake still on. In that respect, almost like things they could do to improve themselves haven't been done. Now there could be market forces at play here. Newcastle might still not be, and I suspect this is probably the case as well. Probably isn't the easiest sell out there. I don't think it's a brand like Chelsea can probably brand anything. Man United brand anything. Like Newcastle hasn't got that name. Liverpool similar hasn't got that name. But Man City have been able to do it. Man City wrote a whole rule book on how to do it. Well, might have broke a few as well along the way.
150 times.
But you know what I mean?
Allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly, yeah, make sure that's in. No, but it's one of the little things that frustrates me. And it kind of brings us on to the next question, because that was a tangent and a half. Is it the chaos that everybody believes? Because we've seen Craig Hope break a story this week, friend of the channel, of course, break a story this week with regards Paul Mitchell leaving. I mean, it was a fortnight early, and then that was refuted quite publicly, Magpie. Refuted quite publicly on Twitter, X as it's now called, by Luke Edwards. And there was a little bit of a battle brewing. What do we think of that one? What do we think of that story? And what is it the kind of chaos? Because I've heard people discuss it in the past where they talk about a power vacuum in Newcastle United. Do you get that feeling and do you get that sense? And I'll come last on this one.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good look that wires clearly seem to have been crossed somewhere. I think, look, if players and staff and agents are being told one thing and then the club are insisting another, that's never a good look, and it does imply some sort of chaos is going on. As far as I'm concerned, Paul Mitchell is...
He's dead anyway, isn't he?
Never...
He's dead to us.
He's gone.
But did he ever really start?
No, I don't think he ever got out of the coffin, did he? He's always been dead to us.
So... you can't really miss what you never really benefited from anyway, so...
His sorry to jump in here, although his legacy in Newcastle United is pathetic. Like, he should hang his head in shame that he wasn't able to come in for 12 months, right, and do something to make some kind of impact.
I'd say the Lloyd Kelly deal's alright, like. Antonio Cordero and Vaktan Salia could be stars of the future as well. But I'd say in terms of transfer sales, getting 20 million for Lloyd Kelly...
But he's not scouting those players, by the way.
No.
So that's
He's literally got a full scouting team, and he sort of adds the comments and the club statements when they do announce signings. No, I do wonder with Paul Mitchell a little bit. If he talked about handbrakes, I do wonder if he's had that one a little bit, because maybe there's been a direction that he wants to go in the football club. Maybe he hung back, and he, at the end of the day, just went, look, if you don't choose my vision, then I'm off.
I think it'll come out in the wash.
Yes.
I do think it'll come out at some point. I think that might be his standpoint. Whether that's just career saving stuff, well, it's them to blame, it was nothing to do with me.
Probably,
which you do get. You're always going to get that.
It's what he said speaking in September, and I reckon if you interviewed him right now, he'd say a similar sort of thing, where he was like, I was sort of standoffish with that window, I was not in control of it. And I think you could say, well, January it was basically a write-off, they weren't going to buy anyone, and then this summer as well, he's decided he's going to leave.
I don't think there's a power vacuum at Newcastle United, that's all I'd say. I think it comes back to your point where I don't think, I'm not sure he was the power man anyway. So I don't think there's a power vacuum. I've seen it suggested in some quarters that people don't know who to speak to in Newcastle United and whatever for deals. I don't think. Well, I know that's not the case at all. That isn't the case. The same people who were kind of doing deals for them. Look, there's a couple of proper power people, and Eddie Howe is one of them. Darren Eales is still doing that job as things stand, and Steve Nixon and Andy Howe. Steve Nixon and Andy Howe have had a massive play on what's gone on. Maybe, you know, that's the type of thing you get with these transfer committees. All these people coming together probably don't always agree on everything.
Yeah.
But Paul Mitchell, it felt like it was his way or the highway, and I think he came across that way.
Yeah.
So to come into that, it was just a bizarre appointment that looked good on paper and hasn't really delivered. Heard terrible things from him behind the scenes. Sounds like he was yesterday's man in today's world. You know,
just wasn't the right fit.
No, he wasn't the right fit. But is there ever going to be a fit? That would be my next thing.
Point, yeah.
Is there ever going to be a right fit to come in retrospectively and fit into a thing that already happens and they already know how each other work? Ashworth, you would say, probably fitted more into that.
He came in very early as well, by the way.
Than Mitchell ever did.
And then Eddie Howe said on record that Dan Ashworth, the best thing I did is he changed nothing. So do they literally need? Right, that's what he said.
Yeah, he did.
So do Newcastle literally just need someone to just be a technical director?
So here's the point: why isn't Andy Howe doing it? Why isn't Steve Nixon doing it? Why don't they just become that? And if that's what works with Eddie Howe, you just take his man and crack on with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. When I heard about the Paul Mitchell news and him stepping away, we'd done the video on it, and I'd suggested, are they going to go down a different avenue where they do just promote people from within and do go back to a structure without Amanda Stevie Miligadusi, where you've got the transfer committee and they do it that way, as it's been reported right this moment. Andy Howe, Steve Nixon stepping up doing the transfer deals. Is that not the best way forward? Do they need a sporting director? Do they need someone to come in and try and do what Paul Mitchell does? They almost, by the sounds, it need someone to come in and just go along with what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And there's a sporting
just
director.
deliver what they've already set out.
Yeah.
Which you can't argue with. Champions League.
No, you can't argue with it.
Which Nixon and the two Howes
record of success.
Nixon and the two Howes have already set this plan.
Yeah. And you can't argue
just
with
crack
it.
on with it.
Paul Mitchell came in, wanted to change it, didn't happen, and he's gone. So is it worth going down the avenue again and getting another sporting director? He wants to change things, and actually the people are there. So what we do this way, we don't want to do that.
So I think we all agree there's a bit of chaos, but probably not the chaos that everybody sort of disastrifying. Is that a word?
Sensationalised.
I just made that up.
I think it's very easy to paint a picture when there's no signings for the door. I think when signings arrive, which we hope will be July, as they say.
We need a Howe, Liam.
June. You want?
I want June signings.
Tomorrow.
I want Howe.
I think new signings changes the picture. We're not talking about Paul Mitchell and potential chaos when they go and sign 2 players in hopefully 4 weeks time. So that changes it for me. Get some signings for the door and let's get on with it.
It changes the whole complexion. And I think it'll change the whole complexion for all of you guys out there too, right?
Yeah. And to bring it full circle, because we saw this last summer when Newcastle ever pick up a tough result in August, this is why we need a striker. That situation has to be avoided. If Newcastle are playing Leeds and it's a 0-0 draw, and then get a point at Ellen Road without scoring on August 30th.
With no Isak, Gordon up front.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like, you know what I mean? Like,
that is a situation that cannot happen.
Yeah.
And at that point, I would be worried.
Yes. You could still change it then, though, couldn't you?
We've got 2 days, yeah.
I think we'll all be... Well, I hope they're done by then. We need a summer of deliver Newcastle United.
Yeah.
And I still think they will, and I'm not panicking yet. I don't think you guys are either, listening to us today.
No.
We might be doing a different video in 4 weeks' time, though.
Things can't change.
Callum Wilson signs a new 2-year deal.
I mean, his contract's up in 2 weeks, so we might not be a million miles off.
He's at the Club World Cup with doing his punditry, he's doing his punditry. He's keeping busy, so good for him.
Yeah. No against the bloke. Just Newcastle need better at the moment.
Yes.
Just laughing at the score. Yeah, sorry, I just want to bring it up. We've literally standing for an empty car park here, and this guy here is literally parked in a non-car park.
I've done that before, yeah.
You've literally got the whole car park here.
Yeah, he's going to get a ticket.
He is going to get a ticket.
Like, we're literally in a position where we can't do anything about this now, because he's already gone and not noticed he's parked.
Yeah,
he's parked in the road, not on the car park, and he's gone. He's got 2 lovely Newcastle United strips on his seats.
Maybe he's a friend of the channel.
Maybe. He's going to be £30 lighter if he pays it within 2 weeks, isn't he?
I was 25. I got stung here a couple of weeks back.
Was it?
Yeah.
I think we all have. Apart from Dom, you're whiter than white.
I've been stung outside. My only parking ticket outside St James's Park.
You've got no points on your licence either, have you?
I mean, I don't think it's appropriate to discuss on a channel, but no, I'm clean as a whistle.
You're Mr. Clean as a whistle,
Yes.
you. I love that about you, Dom. You're clean as a whistle as well, aren't you?
Yeah, really.
Right, enough waffling. You don't come on here for that, maybe you do. Like, comment, share, subscribe for all you enjoyed in this video. We will be doing, just to tag everybody and make sure you know what's coming, there will be a 9 o'clock video on Saturday morning, much like last week, did really well. Everybody seemed to like the content, so we will be jumping in and doing something. Record likely Friday, ready for Saturday morning. So if you do have any ideas, you do any discussion, talking points, etc., just let me know what you want me to talk about. Otherwise, we'll just come up with it ourselves, like we so often do. Right, he was Jordan, he was Dom, I was Liam. Thank you so much for watching, and that's a good night, good day, good afternoon, wherever you're watching this in the world from your Geordie Journals.